Hi, everybody, and welcome back to RHAP's coverage of The Amazing Race 38. My name is Mike Bloom, back again with another one of these special podcasts where we are talking to somebody in the Big Brother community about this Big Brother themed season of The Amazing Race. Today, I am thrilled because we are talking with one of the most prominent Big Brother YouTubers out there, and that is saying a lot. Of course, we're talking about a show like The Amazing Race where teams are given a money at the beginning of every leg to spend however they wish. But instead of talking per diems, I'm talking to Peridiam. How's it going, Peridiam?
That's a deep cut. I know. Oh man.
You don't want to know the brain space I was occupying during my walk with my dog, trying to figure out how to
How
intro
to
you
introduce.
properly.
I just love yeah. For those who don't know, the first time Mike ever mentioned my name, he said per diem, and I just was like, oh, I'm never gonna forget that. Which, to be fair, it's a very weird, unusual name that you're not going to be able to think like, what is this? It's a weird. I mean, it was my Xbox gamer tag from like 15 years ago.
And look at it now. And
Just
now it's your professional name essentially.
Right. So, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, dragging me out of the shadows to talk about the Amazing Race, to get I come on very often to talk about Survivor and Big Brother. Those are my bread and my butter. But in the case of the Amazing Race, I don't know where that fits in
Yeah, I
the
was gonna
equation
say
of the bread and the
jelly,
butter.
jelly maybe.
I don't know. Is it like the crumbs on the side? Like, I love the Amazing Race. I do. I've watched all the seasons, but I've made collectively, I think, 2 videos about using actual footage from the Amazing Race. I talked about Janelle and Brittany. I talked about Corinne and Eliza. I talked about
You did a whole
uh
video on Jess and Cody, I
I did
remember.
Jess and Cody from way back in the day when they were on season 30 or something. But that's kind of it. Then I did a review of season 31 because they had the Survivor and Big Brother mishmash. And I did a video about Colin and Christie, which I thought was like my favorite thing to do because that's one of the, it's funny enough, even though I've only made like 2 really dedicated to Amazing Race with just Amazing Race footage, I did a whole coverage of the Amazing Race season 5. And I heard from Colin and Christie, they showed it to their family to give their family an update, like a recap, like an abbreviated recap of their story on, which is the whole point of the video. Like, if you don't
Yeah,
know who they
yeah.
are going into season 31, you can watch this and get an update. I didn't know that they were going to win this season, but I'm glad they did after that because that was great. That was the one team I picked because I was so excited to get them back on the
Oh
screen.
my god, yes.
But I heard they showed it to their family, and I was
Oh my
like, and they
god.
loved it, and I was like, oh, that's so cool.
That's
Um,
wild. That's incredible and very deserved accomplishment. So I wanted to get a little bit into your Amazing Race history more because, yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I was excited to talk to you is that you are, I think, one of the people in this reality TV space that I remember whenever we have you talk about Survivor, you're like, then I woke up to watch The Amazing Race after that snoozy Survivor episode, or like, I couldn't watch The Amazing Race because I was thinking so much about what just happened on Survivor.
What's
So
happened? Well, yeah.
yeah, so you are someone who typically invests in that, 9:30 slot. But how
Mhm.
long, obviously you've seen every season. Were you like an early season adapter? Was there a certain point where you got on and said, okay, I have to binge all the seasons as a result?
Yeah, actually, Amazing Race was my original darling of the CBS trifecta.
Never forget your first.
I watched season 1 with my family way back in the day, and then I mean, I was young. I don't remember it too strongly, but then I remember watching season 2 alone. My family sort of fell off the bandwagon, I think after season 1, because I remember watching Danny and Oswald. I think that was season 2,
Team
right?
Cha Cha Cha. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah, and so, like, I love them. I was rooting for them so hard, and I have that ingrained memory of watching the episodes by myself every week in the basement TV where nobody else was using that TV, and that was more than Survivor. That was my show. Like, that was the show I watched for a couple of seasons. I don't know exactly what happened, but at some point around probably season 3 or so, maybe it was the Flo and Zach, but I don't remember what happened. I fell off. Same thing with Survivor, to be fair. So I can't blame it on one show, but I did stop watching Survivor and The Amazing Race. I usually say around Africa with Survivor, or
Hmm.
I think season 3, because I don't remember, like, was it Riken and Chip winning
Right.
season
Yep.
4?
Yeah, Riken and Chip.
This is like, for me, this is a big super fan. I can't go that deep, but I'm remembering it now as I'm thinking about it here. But if you ask me who all these winners were, I'm like, I would. If you show me a team, I'd be like, I don't know if they won. I
To
think they
be
won.
fair, I think, yeah, if you get more into like the teen seasons, then you get like, yeah, Megan and Shane, Nick and Star. That's when these teams
Yeah, I
kind of
remember
blend
them.
together in your head.
Yeah. So I did watch from the very beginning. didn't find Big Brother funny enough. That's like the focus of why I'm here. But I didn't watch Big Brother until 2010. That was the last show, and that was sort of the show that I was the least interested in checking out of the three. But I got back into Survivor in 2009, and then Big Brother showed up, and I got addicted to Big Brother way more than I've ever been addicted to like any TV show, literally ever. It just gives you that the depth. It's, you know, it's like wide as an ocean and as deep as an ocean.
Yeah.
But the presentation of Big Brother, for the fans of The Amazing Race out there who are tuning in to listen, presentation of Big Brother, it makes it look like the dumbest show you'll ever experience. The unfortunate, you're gonna waste 3 hours of your life every way. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you got into it. But if you have the freedom, or you're just hanging around, you got nothing to do for the summer, the show gives you an unparalleled depth that Survivor and The Amazing Race never gave me. So there's that. That's why I've stuck around with Big Brother, really. But my experience with The Amazing Race goes way back to the very beginning. And at some point, I think it was in like 2014 or 2015, I was dating my girlfriend, and we got engaged, and I was like, look, I watched Survivor. She knew I watched Survivor every week. I got her into Survivor. And I think her first season was San Juan del Sur with Natalie, the 20s.
Oh,
The
yeah.
20s, The Amazing Race connection. That was her first season watching Survivor. So she's always had that special, like, looking out for Natalie Anderson, rooting for her whenever she's on the screen. But I was like, we should check out I don't know about if you're ready for Big Brother, to my wife.
Well, it's commitment, to your point.
It's a huge commitment, and it's honestly difficult to watch some of the modern seasons. The older ones are a little more interesting, I think, somewhat. But I said, let's check out maybe like Amazing Race. I used to watch this show. I had not watched I watched maybe like 10 seasons at that time, but there were like almost 30, I think, in 2015 or so.
Yeah.
Give or take, little, maybe in the mid 20s. So we started binging it, and we binged all 30 seasons. And then I got my channel started. I talked about Jess and Cody, introducing them for people who hadn't seen Big Brother, which is kind of funny. That's how I'm here now. But and that's sort of my history of The Amazing Race. And then we've been watching it every season since then, whenever it's on. And the funny thing is, my wife is actually, I would say, a bigger fan. Even though I'm the one here talking, I'm a much bigger fan of Big Brother. She listens to you and Jess every week. She's always there. She's listened to it. I think it's her favorite podcast of all the ones that she's always listening to you guys talk. I always hear you guys in the background. She's always got you on the next day. She can't always stay up till 11. She gets tired, but she'll go up and like maybe finish the episode. But she's always listening. I always get to hear your guys' analysis. And she's just like, I couldn't not do this podcast. I was giving her a shout out because like, to an extent, I think her commitment to Amazing Race has kept me watching it live. Maybe I wouldn't be watching it live every single week if it wasn't for her, but she's on at 9:30. I'm more in the Survivor, like online, checking stuff out.
Yeah.
And she's glued to the TV watching The Amazing Race go down. And I'm there too. And obviously with Big Brother on, I'm a little more plugged in than normal, but that's like the extent of it from the very beginning until 2025, you know?
Well, first off, I am incredibly flattered. So thank you to your wife for being a reliable viewer / listener. I would assume listener, because any viewer, I think, would be turned away any singular week, considering what
she is the YouTube up. She doesn't have ad free, so she does
all the power to her. Listen, I'm so happy to find a fellow day one fan of the race, because we are a scarce resource out there, but there are no scarce resources to be found in terms of entertainment among these players. So, Peridiam, as you said, you were a late adopter to Big Brother, but you dove into that ocean, and you have been wading in it delightfully so for the past 15 years. And obviously, again, you've done things in the past about Big Brother players on The Amazing Race. You know, your first season was Big Brother 12, which had Rachel Riley showing up, becoming a prominent member of The Amazing Race community. So what have your thoughts been on this season so far, both as a concept, sort of your expectations, and what it has delivered through 8 episodes?
Yeah, so I think I do keep somewhat my finger on the pulse of the Amazing Race online community, but it's a little, there's less to notice. And I would say, like, initially I was there with them. I know there are a lot of people that aren't fans of Big Brother watching Amazing Race. Amazing Race fans who aren't fans of Big Brother. And somebody who was, I'm always like, are they going to represent well for the brand of Big Brother? Because Big Brother can be, in many cases, there are days where I'm like, this show is so good when it can be good, but it unfortunately isn't often. The presentation isn't very good, but the depth of it is so deep. It really explores the like human element of these social strategy games better than any show I've ever seen, better than Survivor, better than Amazing Race, better than, you know, Traders or whatever. And so watching, I kind of know these Big Brother players coming into this season. Like I've watched them all. I'm like looking, I'm like, I don't think any of them were on before I was watching the shows. They've all been.
The earliest was Enzo, who started on your first season.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh, Enzo was on this season, right? I forgot about that. So yeah, I've seen these people, and even then he came back again for a second time, so it's even more refreshed. Like I almost know them in a weird way. There's a bit of a parasocial way, but I know them in the context of the reality TV world, and I don't generally follow them after the show. I'm not like I don't know, I don't keep up to date. I don't really follow most of them on social media or whatever, so I don't really know what they're doing. But it's cool to see them come back. Like I've met Izzy in person and she's really cool. And so Izzy's back on the screen. I'm like, oh, this reminds me of why I loved Izzy so much on Big Brother 25. And if you don't like her on Amazing Race this season, you're missing out, because there was so much to consume on the season that she was on that was so good. I was rewatching her clips of her and Sari just getting riled up in the back room about Cameron and everything. It's just like, oh, the lore on these players goes so deep, and it's so much fun. And it goes for almost all of them, I would say, pretty much all of them in some capacity. So I was hesitant because I have all of that novelty built up.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, will it translate? Because I don't know. But I found I thought the premiere episode was kind of mediocre. Personally, I didn't love it. I was a little bit turned off with like the instantaneous jump into the show. There was like a weird introduction. It almost felt like they just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
And
to the point where they did something before the starting line even happened.
Yeah, right. I don't know if I've seen that before. Maybe they've done it before.
No, it's the first time they've ever done that.
Right. I didn't personally love it a lot, but I'm also like, well, I know these people, so don't really. Maybe they're going for that angle. Like I knew who all of these players were for the most part, other than their plus ones to some extent. But other than that, I've liked the season. I've enjoyed it. I don't know if that's just because I know these people enough, but I've noticed the online community seems to enjoy it as well, and it sort of tracked how I felt, because I'm pretty casual when it comes to my enjoyment of any season of The Amazing Race.
You say as you pull Riken and Chip out of your ass.
You know, okay, I'm a little less casual than the average person. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I do know some people here and there, but like the older seasons are definitely my favorite. Like the first 10 or so, I can tell you, like my favorites are like 2, 3, 5, 7. 9 was decent, and then of course you got the lovely 8 and 6 out there. But you know, I generally have an okay idea of the show, but I've enjoyed the season for the most part. I would say it's like on a temperature, it's like 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, which isn't bad. Obviously in grade school, that's like a D, but I'd say like if 5 is the average, like just an average season of Amazing Race, for me right now, it's probably a little bit above average. And I think knowing the Big Brother players has elevated it a few notches higher for me. Whereas if they were regular people that I don't know, that weren't on reality TV prior, I'd say maybe it would be a little less interesting. But then I also wonder, are they holding back because they've been on reality TV and been in front of a camera? Could they have been better if they were just a regular Joe Schmoes out there? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that Jess brought up and Maggie did as well a couple of weeks ago in a very interesting way, that like there might be something where if a Big Brother alum has been through this before, they know, especially in a show like Big Brother, where at least, you know, on paper, people should be able to see your every move and watch you 24 hours a day, know how to be on your best behavior, lest you get called out by fans, and then also to protect your loved one at the same time. You know, that said, I do feel like, granted, we are at the final 6, but I do feel like we know a little bit about all of the loved ones as well, which I think was sort of one of the bigger, you know, anxieties coming into this, was like, okay, how much are these people really going to be highlighted? I mean, you know, you look at somebody like Paige, Adam, I feel like they've all really been highlighted well. Jazz, Colin and Taylor is obviously a bit of a different story.
We both know them, so
yeah. Jack to a certain extent. Eric might be like the only one left who, like, I don't really have like
That was the one thing
close
I was
on.
thinking of the final 6. I was like, "Oh, yeah," thinking I'm like, "I actually know them all decently well. I feel like I know them almost as much as the Big Brother players," which is saying something. But I was like, "Yeah, I don't know about Eric. I don't know Eric as well
Yeah,
as
and I mean, I guess
Tucker."
maybe it's just because apparently the thing about Eric that we've heard behind the scenes from the racers that like he's just perfect, like he's just
Oh, okay.
really good at everything, and so it's tough to maybe organize and edit around that. I think what I've sort of formulated around, and maybe my opinion will change over what happens in the next month, but honestly, I don't think so. Is that this is not the most competitive season of The Amazing Race by any stretch, but that doesn't make it not entertaining.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm watching the episodes, I'm enjoying what happens from beginning to end. Am I walking to an episode pretty much thinking, okay, how will Tucker and Eric or Jag and Jas finish in first this week? Yeah, most likely so. But it's not like that inevitability obfuscates a lot of very fun stuff that happens in the 90 minutes proper.
Is anyone else's birthdays coming up of the other
Yeah,
4
exactly.
teams? Maybe they'll get
I feel
the
like
first.
once somebody finds out about that, like you gotta lie about your birthday, right? Pull what an Alec from Big Brother Canada 1 and just
Oh
lie that
my
it's your
gosh.
birthday.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I agree. I'm like the one thing is we've seen like pretty much 2 teams dominate from like episode 1 to episode where we're at right now. That's sort of been the one thing I talking to my wife about that. We're like, it's been pretty good season. I wouldn't say it's like the best, but I wouldn't say it's the worst. I don't think it's done anything terrible. I think I've enjoyed it, even though they're only sticking to Europe. I thought that I would when I found that out, I was a little bit disappointed because
Yeah.
I generally love watching. I always say Amazing Race for me is kind of like an eye candy show. I love watching and not the eye candy like they used to do with Survivor, the Mactors Island out there, or Big Brother in general.
Yeah, what does Corinne think about the Amazing Racers,
That's
considering
the
that she was one at
question,
one point?
Who is the eye candy? That's what I think about every time the cast is released. Who is the eye candy that Corinne Kaplan is not going to scorch the earth with? But for me, it's more like I love seeing the HD of the world and
Yeah.
places I would probably never go and get to see myself. And I have traveled a bit, but I mean, there are a lot of places in Amazing Race I'll never get to go. I went to Iceland last year, and I
Oh.
went and I sent a picture and I messaged Claire and Derek. It was a year ago, and I was like, "Hey guys, I'm at the pit stop where they
Ah!
did it in Reykjavik, outside Reykjavik. It was really
Oh, yeah,
cool, and
with Olander Olafsson or whatever his name was.
I pulled up the exact footage, and I'm like, I'm right there. This is awesome. And I went to they did like an underwater, like cold
Yep.
river thingamajig, and it was freezing cold, and you can go do that. They give you like a giant wetsuit, and I'm right there. I'm like, this is so cool. And these are just little, I guess that does show that I'm more than like an average casual fan, to be fair, but still like that stuff is what I love about the Amazing Race, is like being able to see the whole world. And I'm like, okay, we're reduced to Europe. I've definitely traveled the most in Europe of any continent myself.
Okay.
So I was a little bit disappointed, but I'm like, honestly, I lived in Prague for a year
Oh.
randomly. I lived in Prague. So when we had like 2 or so episodes in Prague, I'm like,
Mhm.
I know these places. I know this. I know that and that and that and that. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done these things. So I don't know. It was really cool. I'm just happy to be able to watch it ultimately at the end of the day. And I do wish it went to more places, but
Yeah.
neither
I
here
mean,
nor there.
I think that given your affinity for Expedia experiences, if you ever go to Romania, are you going to try to roll the giant eggs for the chicken? Are you
I
going to
might.
try the folk dance? Are you going to make the michi?
Yeah, maybe I will. I don't know. I mean, it's fun. I will say the one thing I wanted to briefly touch on was
Yeah.
the whole thing with Adam and Joseph, and that scene that came up with the egg and his diabetes.
Yeah.
I've traveled a lot with my dad as well, who is a type 1 diabetic. So
Mm.
I was like right in Joseph's shoes when he was talking about Adam needing to have some sugar. That's the one thing I was like, hey, actually this does kind of touch on a personal note for me, because I've been there where my dad was like, basically it almost is like he was sleepwalking in a way when his sugar drops. That's how I could
Mm.
describe it. I don't know if you ever been around somebody with type 1 diabetic when they're like sugar drops.
No.
It's very interesting. So just speaking of the egg situation there in Romania, but I'm like, this is fascinating to see on a completely different level, watching a type 1 diabetic travel and then needing to have sugar uptakes to make sure the sugar level goes up. And I've been in that exact position that Joseph was in, where I'm like, we need to get sugar, man. We need to get you some sweets, or orange juice is very common. It's fascinating.
Yeah. What were your thoughts about the way that, Adam apparently multiple times kind of rebuffs Joseph's suggestion of, all right, like the Dex comic expired, we need to get a new one, to the point where apparently like he ran away from him in the roadblock, because again, it's something that I'm still kind of chewing over, which is like, respect the fact that Adam is the most knowledgeable person about his own body. Like, he should
Absolutely.
understand when he's crashing. On the other hand, like, dude, take some time to change your Dexcom, it
Yeah,
could be a very bad situation.
No, for sure. I mean, I've been in the same spot where I'm like, okay, my dad knows way more about this than I ever will. So, but then at the same time, I'm like, but it's visibly apparent, like you're sort of falling out of it, like mentally checking out, slowing down. It kind of feels like you're talking to somebody who doesn't understand you. They don't understand the language. And then when they talk back, their response, in my dad's case, he just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. He sort of says things that are just like, excuse, like, what are you saying? Where did that come from? That's very non sequitur. Yeah, I was sort of vicariously living in that moment as Joseph, but I get it. I do think to an extent they know themselves better than we might, and perhaps they can push it. I've seen it go to an extreme degree where it's like, okay, we need to go ASAP, like to a place to get you some sugar. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then the fact that they were almost eliminated, I felt like, thank God they weren't. I'm so glad because I'm rooting for them. They're maybe my number one team I'm rooting for. But yeah, I was really it was just like, oh boy, this is striking home for me.
Well, let's probably best way to do this is talk through some of the 6 remaining teams, maybe dote on some other ones that have been eliminated, and we'll go from your number 1 team to team number 1 this week, and team number 1 a couple of times, and maybe someone who will end up being team number 1 in a month. So Jag and Jess, I mean, certainly there was a lot of talk preseason about the fact that this is a guy who holds, a Big Brother record for most competitions. Did you think that him and Jess would be as dominant as they were over the course of the season so far?
Yeah, so it's interesting because if you know Jag is very good at competitions. That's his bread and butter. Jag broke the record in 25 years, 25 seasons for veto wins on Big Brother, which is one of the 2 main staples of the show. He came in and he did that. I was almost hoping, because if you know Big Brother, Jag was technically evicted. He's the only player in Big Brother history, the only winner to get evicted and then basically not get evicted, and then we'll go on to win the whole season. For Survivor fans, he's a bit like the Chris Underwood of Big Brother in a way, and a little different. He was still in the house for the whole season, unlike Chris. But I was hoping that he would somehow find a way to be in the non-elimination leg just for the narrative of it all, where he gets to go to Phil. He says, "You're not eliminated, but you would have been in any other episode."
Oh my God, that would be amazing. And then Matt Klotz steps out from the shadows like, I saved you again, buddy.
Yeah, I like
Minutemen for life.
Sari shows up and, it's like Matt and Sari in the background, like scheming behind like some, whatever, one of the bears or whatever they're doing. It would have made me laugh so hard. But yeah, I'm not terribly surprised to see Jag. And I don't know Jazz, but Jazz seems just as formidable as Jag is. They are basically like an elite unit of a team. I think you put them on any season, then they'll probably do really well. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all. I was like, I think Jag and Jazz will likely do pretty well unless we somehow get Jag in like week 1 through 5 of his season. That doesn't make sense in the context of Amazing Race. But if somehow we get the Jag that we were all wondering how this guy could possibly win Big Brother on the Amazing Race, we didn't. We got the Jag that we know and love, who would win clutch competitions and just beast his way to the end of the season and just, steamroll basically. And I think he's kind of doing that here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be so bold as to say, because we'll talk about Tucker and Eric next, I think there's a good chance that at least one of, if not both those teams are U-turn next week. Yeah. That is like the lone hurdle they have to get through, from my opinion, to get to the finale. Unless there's another like random U-turn that happens to show up, but it's going to be like, the 4th to last episode. I would not expect that. Like, the only way I think any of these 2 teams could really tumble so much that they're taken out, maybe towards the end of the race, it's a little bit different. Every mistake you make is more costly, but like both of these teams are just so good that even if you try to handicap them, if they're able to overcome that, then there's really no stopping either one of them.
Yeah. I mean, is the U-turn, I don't know for sure how this works. Maybe you do. Is it 2 teams get
Yeah, U-turns? So it has been confirmed that it'll be a double U-turn next time. So it'll be the teams that get the 2 teams that get the most votes out of the 6 will be U-turns.
So like, I feel like it would be best in everyone's interest to vote for the 2 teams, like both Tucker and Eric, and Matt and Jazz and Jag. I was thinking Matt and Jag. I can't believe I said that. So yeah, I'm thinking I wouldn't be shocked if both those teams go. If one of those teams is not U-turned, I would say of the 6, I feel like you're looking at them as like the front runners to win the entire season. I feel like the winner is probably one of those 2 teams. At this point, I feel like that's not even much of a take. Like they've won every single leg except for one where they gave it to Natalie. So it is what it is. That's sort of like one of the cons of the season. It's a little, I wish there was a little more jockeying for first place. It does feel like in that sense, we've got like 2 elite teams just cruising to the finish line, and we'll see which of them finishes first, doesn't get the flat tire in the taxi on the way to the finish line,
Yeah, well, let's talk about the team that got held up by a taxi from their 5th first place finish in a row. Let's talk Tucker and Eric, because this, while maybe the preconceived notions about Jag and Jazz might have sort of been met here, I think a lot of people, especially given what Tucker brought to Big Brother 26, which was a little bit more of this chaotic, big move, wild card type of player, he's not really racing like that. And I don't know if it's because Eric is like holding him in check. I don't know if it's just sort of apples and oranges in terms of the 2 different shows. But what have your thoughts been about Tucker and Eric so far?
I like Tucker. And Eric seems great. Again, we talked briefly about how I don't personally seem to know him as well as I do the other +1s to the Big Brother players, but I've liked them a lot. I wasn't sure what to get out of Tucker going into the Amazing Race, because on Big Brother, he kind of like, a part of Tucker's charm was how stir crazy he got. And on the Amazing Race, you don't have that. You're just constantly going. So I'm like, Tucker almost feels like he would excel in the Amazing Race, and he is. And I'm not surprised at that at all. But a large part of the reason why Tucker, I think, was on this season Amazing Race is because of how he was just an explosive character on his season. He was by far the biggest character on his season. Maybe other next to Angela, actually. I don't know. No, I think Tucker regularly blew the game up more than I would say Angela even. And she was also a player we can talk about. Speaking of, I'm like, right, she was on this season. I'm already forgetting. Angela Murray, who was one of the earlier eliminations. I think, was she second?
She was second out. Yeah.
Second out. Damn, that's unfortunate because she's fun to watch. Both of them were the 2 biggest characters on their season by far. And I'm not shocked. I was a little hesitant because at some points there were times where I'm watching Big Brother 26, Tucker was a lot, especially on the live feeds for me. And I'm like, when he got taken out, a part of me was kind of happy because he was such like a menace and a nuisance in a way. Good TV, good feeds at the end of the day. And I kind of ultimately regret his eviction. I wish he did stay. But when he did go on his season, I was like, he can go, because I don't know how they're going to stop him otherwise. This guy is nearly unstoppable. And funny enough, here we are in the Amazing Race, and I feel the same way. I'm like, outside of this double U-turn, this might be his kryptonite, where a random thing shows up and he gets pushed to the back of the pack, and maybe he's racing against Jag and Jazz, or maybe it slows him down. And there's only a few episodes left, so at this point, if you get bumped to the back of the pack, I worry you're not going to have the room to get ahead unless there's some sort of an equalizer. Or, I mean, they are so good at everything, so it might not be that much of a hindrance, but I don't know. I could see, like, even if they both get U-turned, these top 2 teams, Tucker and Jag, I wouldn't expect both of them to be out next anyway. I think they'll both still make it through at least the next episode. I do feel like we're looking at like a Chelsea and Jack going next probably is my best bet.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good point, because I'm thinking actually back to last season when they also did a U-turn vote. And again, one of the reasons why I do not like the U-turn vote is due to the structure of that leg. It pretty much was, okay, one of these 2 teams is pretty much going home from the jump. But just the way things were organized, it was Scott and Lori, and it was Jonathan and Anna, who were 2 front-runner teams at the time. And just with the way that things shook out, because, how far they fell behind with having to do the detour twice, it was like, all right, well, one of these 2 teams is going to be eliminated. So yeah, there is a chance that if both these teams get U-turned and the leg is structured in a certain way, it could actually be a battle between the front runners at the bottom next episode.
Yeah, and a part of me doesn't love for the Amazing Race. I do enjoy like generally a peer game. And you can say what you want about all the different twists they've done. I do feel like the U-turn, double U-turn is a little bit out of left field and a little unfair. I don't know. Just let the racers race. But at the same time, you know, it is what it is. If it makes this show more interesting and exciting, and it, you know, shakes the proverbial snow globe a little bit, then maybe it's the right way to go. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But I don't know. I'm not surprised. Tucker and Eric are doing really well. I would say they're either first or second, and wouldn't be shocked if they win.
Well, let's move on to third this week. And this is probably the most interesting one to talk about in terms of preseason expectations
Yeah, right.
versus reality here. Because I love getting to do these interviews because I always ask people, like, yeah, what were your thoughts when you heard that Kylan and Taylor were dating? And now, what were your thoughts about their relationship, having viewed it through, admittedly, a very skewed perspective on the race?
Yeah, I didn't know they were dating. I don't know if they're still. I don't know what the T. I don't follow them, so I'm not even 100%
I
sure what's
believe
going.
at the moment it's off, but again, like,
Yeah, that's what I
flip
thought.
a coin.
I mean, I was like, are they ever on? I feel like Taylor and Joseph still have more chemistry.
Yeah, because Taylor calls him the love of her life on the train.
I like the poking and the prodding, but that's because I'm a big fan of BB24, and I followed that showmance with Joseph and with Taylor. So I'm like, hey, callbacks. This is funny when they're in like the plane doing the I think in Taylor and Joseph says something like, you love me, Taylor. I don't know what he said.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
It made me laugh. I'm like, hey, that's funny. I don't know if that's scandalous. That's like, but then I'm like, my wife and I are both kind of thinking, did they just get together to be on The Amazing Race? I doubt it, but also maybe. And if honestly, good for them if they did, whatever. I'm not going to get too big into the weeds of whether I care or not, but okay. I'm shocked. I don't know if they're still together, and it's an interesting twist. I'm sort of confused why they're the only team of all the teams that have like two Big Brother players. And I thought, oh, okay. I mean, it's understandable. You're not going to get everyone having two Big Brother players, but why not just have like Taylor and someone else with her? Or maybe they couldn't do it, or I don't know. Just seemed a little random, a little bit random.
So then, what are your thoughts about them so far on the race? Because again, for a relationship we didn't know a lot about, and again, we never used The Amazing Race to sort of like psychoanalyze and truly dive deep into what this relationship is. But I think certainly as of late, those communication issues that they teased from the very beginning are starting to brim to the surface.
I mean, again, I watch these people on the live feeds like 24/7. Not surprised. Between either of them, I think they've done pretty well. They were back of the pack at the beginning, and I was a little bit worried that they're going to go. I'm a big fan of Taylor. Love Taylor. You know, I've said Taylor's like for me, like top 3 favorite winner, player overall. Loved her trajectory. Obviously everybody did, but I'm a person I'm a pundit who has advocated that BB24 is worse because if Taylor doesn't win it. But I think the season is actually really strong no matter what happens at the end. Obviously the destination is very important. Sticking the landing is important. It stuck really well. Maybe one of the best in ever in the history of the show. I think in the case of them, they've been pretty strong. I think Kylan's is definitely a strong racer. Taylor has employed strategies with the challenges that some work, some didn't work. But I like their approach. I've enjoyed watching them. I appreciate that they are like one of the only teams that actually has some sort of complicated dynamic. That's not just like everything's great all the time. Like I like that for people, but in the sense of watching it on television, it is more interesting to watch. My wife constantly references Jonathan and Anna, just to their relationship. And it's just like, it was a lot to develop, but they'll stick with you and you sort of live and learn more from that. I think watching the show, I was watching montage just to be like, remember Jonathan and Victoria? There's a fun couple of montages out there, and we were watching it. And to be
fun
fair,
is an interesting word. Definitely not fun as in like team fun.
But there were just some funny like one-liners coming out of both of them that were like, this is just the reality TV of it all. It's just so absurd. There are definitely moments that are terrible. We are not there. We're never gonna get there, I think, ever again, hopefully. But with Kylan and Taylor, I could see them squeaking out an underdog win if this U-turn screws these top 2 teams up. Kylan and Taylor are definitely both a really strong pair, and if they win, honestly, I'm not too surprised. Taylor is a winner. Kylan is this close to being a winner himself. Had he not flubbed at the very last second, he could have won easily. Maybe shift his perspective a little bit, but on the end game of his season. But ultimately, They're good. They're a strong team. They're I think they're like probably the dark horse of the season. They're the team that you're not expecting. They could come out in front and win. So if they did, I would say they're probably the one underdog team that I think could pull it out. If not Tucker, if not Jag.
Well, let's move into the back of the pack. Though again, teams were fairly close in this episode. You mentioned Izzy
Mm-hmm.
before. Give me your thoughts on her and Paige because they might be one of the most entertaining teams of the season, which says a lot given again the casting they used.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm loving them. We're rooting for them. I think we've been rooting for them the most of any team. Doesn't surprise me to hear myself say that, or my wife. It surprised me a little bit more with my wife. She didn't watch the feeds as much, but like
Mm.
knowing Izzy, she didn't get the best edit on BB25. So I was like, oh, she's such a gold mine. She can be so good. And she has been so much fun to watch. Seeing her get a music challenge competition, whatever they call them. In this last episode
Yeah.
was like, yes, this is exactly why they brought her on, and she made it far enough to do it. She fulfilled her destiny. I hope it's not the end of her story. Hope it doesn't end here with her doing exactly what she was hoping for.
Well, she
But
would go out on a high note, literally, with the pantsuit.
but there you go. And I'm like, we're rooting for them. We've really enjoyed them. They've sort of put this like a bit of a one-sided rivalry going on with them and Jag and Jazz. I don't feel like Jag and Jazz are nearly as like bothered by Izzy and Paige, or at least Izzy, as Izzy apparently is. But also, Jag and Jazz U-turn them, so I kind of understand where it's from a game perspective. I don't mind players carrying that heat.
Yeah.
We're not all sitting in line like just being just generic. Everybody's just following in line. I like it when players get a little bit heated, a little bit animosity, rivalries, ups the tension, ups the drama. Izzy and Paige are bringing that a little bit. I'm rooting for them. I don't think they're going to win, but that's okay. It's not about the winning. It's not all about winning at the end of the day, so.
Yeah, and again, I'll say that I think part of the exercise of this season is to get to know some of the people we love most. And again, I think that Paige is definitely in the running for one of the best partners that we've gotten to know over the
Oh
course of
yeah,
the season, both in the skills that she has in her own right and just maybe the funniest person of the season because the one-liners she delivers are so dry but so good.
should they do a Big Brother season like Big Brother 6 again
Of like bring people in as the
with
Summer
like
of
a loved
Secrets
one,
partners.
something like that? I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
mean,
This season's reminding me is like, is that a good idea that we draw that? Do we draw from that well again? I don't
I mean,
know.
it is interesting. I mean, I think that people's opinions may vary on like the blood versus water of it all, but I think as a theme, the psychology behind that is really interesting on paper, right? Of like, this is a competitive game. What would you do for your loved one? How far would you go to protect somebody else? So I mean, listen, maybe it's more of an excuse to make a big majority alliance at the beginning of the season because it's like, okay, me and my loved one, and you and your loved one. You only need 4 pairs
True.
instead of 8 people, but I don't know. I don't think it's like I'm not out on the
Sure.
idea. I love the strangers getting together, but there is something interesting as long as it's done well about bringing people in who know each other. And I guess the question would be, is it going to be explicit off the top, or much like season 6, are they going to have to figure it out along the way?
True. Okay. Yeah, I see it.
All right, well, let's talk about Jack and Chelsea here, our most recently minted
Right.
winner, of course, before Ashley here. So, what have your thoughts been on Chelsea and her dad, Jack?
Again, they're a team that they've been average. I think they've been holding in there, slightly above average at times. They're getting to the pointy end where the fat trims away, and it's like, okay, they're a team that's starting to unfortunately crack at the seams, show their weaknesses more than their strengths, and I think it's alluding to possibly elimination soon.
Hmm.
Um, I don't really know what to expect with Chelsea. Like, she kind of came out of left field and blindsided us all of a sudden. Like, I ranked all of the Big Brother winners last summer or just a few
Yeah.
months ago, and we've got a lot of them on this season from the modern era. And Chelsea, to me, played one of the best games we've ever seen on Big Brother in
Mm-hmm.
25 years. And that's not easy to do. Like, there are some really, really strong games that have been played on Big Brother. Like, and we see it. We have all the receipts. So when Chelsea's back on Amazing Race, I'm like, okay, she played the Big Brother incredibly well. She's a very good social player. She's very good at like getting her way, convincing people to do. Doesn't really, I don't know how it's going to apply to the Amazing Race, and it's seemingly been fine. I'm not impressed, but I'm also not like disappointed. And then I'm like, unfortunately, the whole having an older player doesn't. I feel like would he be like the oldest person ever win the Amazing Race?
That's a good question
I,
because Jack is, I think
he's 58.
he's 58. I'm trying to look at how old Dave of Dave and Connor was when they won the Amazing
Right.
Race
Okay.
24. Because I believe Penn and Kim are like the average oldest. No, Dave would beat him by 1 year. Dave was 59 years
Really?
old
Okay.
when he won the Amazing Race.
And like to be fair, they were on a returning season, and they were also like, didn't they have like a really bad,
Oh yeah,
unfortunate
he blew
demise?
out his ACL running to the pit stop one time, and like they had him hobble along for a couple of legs until they literally said, "You don't have a couple of legs to continue. You're gone."
Yeah, it's rough. So like again, I do wonder if his age is unfortunately like if she had raced with, but you know, I don't want to get too into the weeds of their relationship. I just like I wonder if Chelsea could have been more of a front runner if she was with someone a little younger. But I like Jack. I don't have a personal
Yeah.
thing. He seems like a nice guy. They're sort of starting to argue a little bit with their directions. I do sometimes put myself in their shoes of like, okay, if I was with my wife, she's very bad at navigating, like horrible at like she gets lost like in our own house. It's wild. She would hate for me. Hopefully she doesn't listen that long, 40 minutes deep into the podcast to hear that. But like she lets me navigate. I'm always so I'd be like, okay, she would drive because she knows how to drive stick.
Mm.
And I don't. I don't drive manual. I don't know how. She's from the UK, so she's got that going for her.
Oh yeah.
So she would do the driving, and she's a very safe, cautious driver, so I don't have any worry about that. And I would do the navigating. That's sort of what I've been pretty good at. So I'm like, unfortunately, Jack and Chelsea are seemingly getting lost. They were getting lost a lot in the last episode, and I almost thought that they were going to get eliminated, but they didn't. So I don't know. You know, they're okay. They're an all right team.
All right. Well, finishing out the top 6 here is going back to your number 1 team. Give me your thoughts on Joseph and Adam. We spoke a bit, obviously, about Adam's medical situation, especially in this episode. But what do you think about the camaraderie between these brothers through 8
I
legs
mean,
of the
they're
race?
like such golden retrievers. I mean, at least Joseph. Joseph's always been like that. Like BB24, his season of Big Brother, he was the hero. People loved him. People rooted for him. He was so likable. He's one of the most iconic moments is his birthday party. Is Joseph turning 24? Was it or turning 25? I
He was
think
turning 25 because I think the
turned
meme was
25
that men do not have their like brains fully developed until they turn 25.
and he was 24 for the first few weeks, and he was kind of he was an alternate. I always remember he was an alternate on the season, and he got
Yep.
on by the grace of somebody, you know, getting taken out in the preseason.
Shout out to
And
MC.
shout out to MC again. Yeah, right. Speaking of alternates, and so he showed up, and I'm like, wow, he has really managed. Like his elimination on Big Brother was heartbreaking, to say the least, and it's reminding me watching them and his brother too. It's like they're cut from a similar cloth. I can tell, and they're giving me the same vibes as BB24 with his origination story. I'm worried that that's going to be a similar situation. It could be as soon as next episode because they're in the back and they're about to get punished with some speed bump of something going on. Hopefully it's nothing too crazy, but I was shocked. I didn't know if they were going to do an elimination leg. Wasn't really paying attention to the math of it all.
Yeah.
So when it did come out, I was like, oh, okay. Oh, great. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what are your thoughts about it? I mean, I know that I podcast with Rob Cesarino, who has been famously vehemently anti non-elimination leg, but as
He
someone
doesn't
who's
like
been
it.
watching, no, does not like it. He feels like
Yeah.
it sort of just like leads to an anticlimactic outcome. But again, as someone who's been watching this race from the beginning, is it something that you've always enjoyed or at least tolerated?
I think I'm sort of just middle of the road on it in that like it has I still think of like what was that team, Aaron and somebody else who got
Arun and
saved.
Natalia, yeah, from a
Arun and
few seasons
Natalia
ago.
hilariously got saved like multiple times, and they were always in the back. And then when they came in last, they got saved. And then when they didn't come in last, they were like second to last. Uh, you know, it has moments. It's not a twist. I don't love it only in that like it's sort of unpredictable and random, and it feels like it could be convenient. I don't think the producers do it out of convenience. Like if it was in the hands of Big Brother, I'd be like super scared. Like, what if randomly we're just not gonna let the eviction happen? Oh, I hate that on Survivor and Big Brother when they've done it. Not in the case of Survivor so much, but like the cliffhangers or whatever. It does feel like you're wasting my time. Oh no, it does. The Australian Survivor is a great example of it, where I loathe it on Australian Survivor. Loathe it. I hate it. I could rant about it how much I dislike it because I'm like wasting my time for 45 minutes with no conclusion, no climb. And sometimes it's fun. They take the player and they put him on the other tribe. In this case, they don't really do anything with that. It's just they get to stick it in your screen a little longer, and hopefully it's a team you're rooting for, so it doesn't hurt as much. You feel good about it because you're like, I didn't lose Joseph and Adam.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. Or what if they just had a bad, because the luck is there's so much luck on the Amazing Race as far as, you know, bad taxi or something just doesn't click for a second, or I don't know, or whatever. You know, but yeah, really, it's often like the transportation part of it. And it's like maybe they don't deserve to go out there, but then again, that's how it always is, and that's just the nature of the show, the nature of the game. So why is it that they randomly all of a sudden get to be saved?
Yeah.
I don't. How do you not mind it as much? You're okay with it?
I mean, I don't mind it just because, again, it's something that it has been dealt with from the beginning. And I mean, like, looking at some of the teams that have been saved by non-elimination legs, I personally don't think the fix is in that it's like they've got to
Oh no,
save
I don't
one
think it's in at
specific
all.
team. Because again, I think there's certainly some teams that were saved by non-elimination legs. And I'm always about a journey over a destination type of person. I mean, yes, when they did it in Survivor, for example, I was really not happy with that just because it's the anticipated structure and outcome that we are used to for
Yeah.
20 plus years. But that's not the case with The Amazing Race, right? The Amazing Race, I remember specifically towards the end game, like every other episode would be non-elimination. So I think it's all about expectations versus reality. But I think that's also what surprised Rob is that, you know, he was away from the race for a few seasons. So like we have seen the non-elimination leg like trickle back in drips and drabs, really one non-elimination episode a leg, despite the fact that they have like 13, 14 teams now. So,
Mhm.
you know, I was expecting it to happen at some point, and I don't necessarily have a problem with it. You know, maybe I've been in and out of the punishments they've given for people who finish in last. Of course, we've settled sort of on the speed bump, the extra task, but we've had things like you get all your money taken and you have to beg for it. We'll take everything except the clothes on your back, and you just have to run with that for the rest of the race. Here's a thing that makes you marked for elimination. So unless you finish in first place, you get a 30-minute penalty. Like, I think the speed bump was probably the best natural place we could settle into for that.
Okay. I was gonna say this is philosophically making me think like, okay, I'm more casual about this show, but I know there's a lot of people in the Survivor world that like don't mind the nominations on Australian Survivor.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, am I them now for the Amazing Race? Is that where I'm at? Is the shoe on the other foot? This is making me think now about that because I have very strong opinions about Survivor and Big Brother twists to the
Mm.
point where I'll die on those hills. You know, I've ranted about them on YouTube for years about how much I don't like certain things, and so I'm like, oh, interesting. Elimination legs, are they? I don't know how controversial they are. I don't feel like they don't. I don't feel like they generate too much controversy.
No, I
Personally,
think if you're someone who hasn't watched the show, it just might be a little bit of like a shift in
yeah,
mentality of like,
it is a
oh,
little
I guess
unusual.
sometimes
Like,
people don't go home.
and that was correct. That's the first and probably only one of the season, right?
I would imagine so, yeah, because I think that
With
given
the
just the way
number
the
of
show is structured
episodes
out,
left.
I think it's been loosely confirmed that the show is ending on December 10th, which would give us 4 more episodes. So I think you go 6 to 5, 5 to
5 to
4,
4.
4 to 3, and then the finale.
I because
Unless they're gonna have 4 teams in the finale and do like a
right.
big 2-hour episode, like it
I
just
don't
makes
think
sense
they've
this
done
way.
that usually, isn't it? Because it's gonna be airing right after Survivor, so it'll be a 90-minute episode, that's
Yeah,
my
I
guess.
think that makes sense. And so
I
yeah,
was
they wouldn't necessarily. I mean, they might do a thing. They've done this in I think season 36 where they just like moved it to a Thursday and did a 2-hour episode instead. But
oh, okay.
again, I don't think they're necessarily going to do that. So my expectation is there's only going to be 4 more legs, and so yeah, it wouldn't make sense to throw another non-elimination in there.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think so.
Well,
Okay.
just to briefly dote on, you know, some of these other teams. I don't want to necessarily and Peggy them, but things like, you know, Natalie and Stephanie, Christina and Rubina, the Chata sisters, Kat and
Yeah.
Alex, the Turners, Angela and Lexi, Enzo and Jack. Any like prevailing opinions on any of these teams in particular?
Um, I feel like they went out in the order they probably were gonna go out in. It's kind of a weird thing where I'm like, the strength of their positions kinda all makes sense. There's no teams that I feel like have snuck into the end game in the sense of this
Yeah.
season. Um, I don't remember Jack and Enzo going out too much, so I can't even say for sure. Because Enzo, if you don't know Big Brother, usually sticks around. He's like Velcro. He just manages to survive all the way until the end of the season. He's the glitter. He's just everywhere. And he doesn't win, unfortunately. But to be the first boot, I'm like, I don't remember what even got them out. But then like the rest of them, I'm like, yeah, I'm not terribly shocked that Angela didn't do well when I saw her in the cast. I was like, yeah, I don't know if she's going to do super well here. This doesn't feel like she feels more like a Big Brother like star. Like that would be where she should be.
Mm.
Matt and Turner, I was shocked. Not Matt and Turner. Matt
I mean,
and
technically
Megan.
Megan's a Turner as well.
That's true. Matt and Megan Turner. I was a little bit shocked that they were kind of hobbling along and they didn't go as far as I thought. I thought they could be a little bit better.
Mm,
I know Turner said that he was getting into shape now. He's in much better shape. I did see
yeah.
that on social media after they were eliminated. I did like them. But I've also seen a little bit more of him after BB24. So I had like more of a, I know he's lives like really close to Ethan and Molly,
Yep.
another Survivor or Big Brother YouTuber. So I'm kind of like, oh, that's unfortunate. I like them. Cat was an interesting callback. Didn't expect Cat. Like, where did Cat come from?
Yeah.
BB21. Who knew? BB21 doesn't have the best reputation. Cat was definitely a better presence on that season of anyone to call back from. Like, I don't have any problems with Cat coming back. I like Cat. I've never had an issue with Cat. And as far as people on BB21 go, I think she's probably one of the better gets.
Mm,
For me at least. So, and for the Amazing Race, I think she was probably a pretty good pull. I liked her.
yeah.
Don't remember her. Was it her boyfriend
Her
too well?
boyfriend. Yeah. I mean, I remember he was very supportive of her. I think
Yeah,
through a lot of
seemed like a
stuff that
nice
was going.
guy.
Yeah, seems very, and he's very funny as well. And he's also a big fan of The Amazing Race. Like
Oh,
for
cool.
some of
That's
these
good.
people, like they surprisingly were like, oh yeah, this was the show that I wanted to do, and now we finally got the chance to do it. So he was having the thrill of his life, even if the
That's, I mean,
circumstances were
like
not
I'm
ideal.
happy for him for that in that sense.
Yeah.
I like Kat. If Kat came back on a Big Brother season for whatever reason, I'd be fine with it. I like her. She was fun. She's a good character. I think that she was able to showcase that a little bit here on the season and bring back. I was like, oh yeah, I did. I do kind of miss some of that
Mm,
from BB21. Hannah, liked Hannah and
yeah.
her sister. We were rooting for them over here. I was like, I don't know how they're going to do. They seem decent on the show. They seem like, and so they kind of just disappeared all of a sudden. But I like them.
Hmm.
I've always liked Hannah. And then Rubina and Christine, they were fun underdogs. And then we also have Natalie. Rubina, not my favorite BB26. She kind of went far and then didn't really do enough. And I was like, do more, please do more. I liked her more on The Amazing Race, personally. I wish maybe this was her first introduction. On BB26, I saw a lot of her with the feeds. She was okay, but she's not as much of a game player. Whereas on Amazing Race, I felt like this to me brought out more of why I liked Rubina at the beginning of BB26 and not so
Mm,
much when it came down to at the end of BB26 when I was like, okay, the season's on your shoulders. You're the underdog. You got to do something. And it was like nothing really happened.
mm.
But I liked her. I liked her and her sister. And then Natalie was an interesting pick because
Yeah, I
not
was gonna
only do I
say
think
if you're talking about one team that you were surprised did not make it to the end game, it's probably her and
I
Steph.
was gonna say getting to Natalie and Stephanie last. They were one of the most interesting picks of the entire cast just because they were not on a season in the 20s for Big Brother. And I was like, whoa, BB18 out of nowhere. That's interesting. That's actually more of an interesting poll than. And I don't know if Natalie's been on like the challenge or something. I haven't really watched the challenge. I don't really know what else she's done.
Yeah, she did. I would say technically 3 seasons of the challenge, but she went out very early on in her third one. But she did 3 in a row actually.
Oh wow, okay. Was that recently or like
No,
5 years
it
ago?
was. So we're currently on 38. I want to say it's around like 2017, 2018. She was on
Oh, that's a
seasons
bit of a
31, 32, 33.
okay. Because she was on Big Brother then, yeah, in 2016. So right after that. Um, yeah, they were a strong team that I was also that was another team. Those are like I was rooting for Natalie and Stephanie, Joseph and Adam, Izzy and Paige. Natalie was definitely an unfortunate cut that we were like, oh, they really tried. They were an interesting pair. The dynamic was really fun to watch. They really tried their best. And I was enjoying watching them. And then I was really, really unfortunate that they didn't go as far as they did. So they could have been up there. And it's like, oh, it came down to Joseph being an anti-hero, huh? Not really fulfilling his destiny there. He's not being the guy we always. Joseph 24 showed up instead of 25, where he is cutting in line when I think it probably should have gone to Natalie and her sister in that case. But what are you gonna
Well,
do? It's the race.
you are, of course, someone who is bread and butter, to keep going back to that phrase, is social strategy games. So I want to talk about some of these strategic decisions that were
Mm-hmm.
made in this episode, or I guess looking ahead to future episodes, because this episode was the final time to use both express passes.
Yeah.
And, I have certainly gotten a couple comments since the recap about the fact that, like, yeah, I could definitely see the argument that looking back in hindsight upon Taylor and Kylan's decision to give the express pass to Jag and Jazz at the starting line, it works if the strategy is, okay, we don't want that express pass to get used, right? Like it's going to get burned because they're never going to use it. They're too good at it. I'm not sure if they thought that at the time. But I want to hear your thoughts on the decision, especially now that we have had both of them kind of like uselessly expended, for lack of a better term. How do you look
Yeah.
back now on that decision in the premiere?
I was very confused. I thought going into the season, Jag and Jazz are clearly probably going to be one of the stronger teams, unless I don't know Jazz very well, but I'm like knowing Jag, I would not give him like a leg up in a competition in any capacity, because he's going to be probably in the front of the pack most of the season anyway, especially given the field. So I was a bit confused by that. And I guess, did you say their strategy? I don't really know their strategy. I don't remember it super well
I
because
mean,
this
they don't.
was a
Yeah, they
couple months
don't. They
ago.
haven't really vocalized a lot of it so far. I mean, I guess the way it's translated the most, if I'm remembering correctly, is that Jag and Jazz have said online that they would not U-turn Kylan and Taylor
Like, I'm like,
because
this is some sort of a pre-season or some sort of a nothing. They just, oh,
from
okay.
what I can tell, it was like not necessarily because, again, I think I mean, as they were talking about in the show, it was that okay, they're not going to give it to Joseph and they're not going to give it to Hannah. Instead, they want to make a new relationship, a new connection, and so they were
Okay.
doing that with Jag and Jazz. And
Yeah, I
apparently,
think it's a little overthinking it,
there
personally.
was this entire period, Natalie and Stephanie told me, where actually like they were allowed to make their arguments to Kylan and Taylor. And
Oh,
so
okay.
you could argue, if you go with that line of thinking, Natalie and Stephanie, who were even less connected, also made that argument, but Jag
Yeah.
and Jazz apparently made the better pitch there.
Interesting. I wonder if I would like to hear how similar it was to Jag's final two speech.
You could have the
I
exact same thing.
the intensity of how strongly he argued his case to the jurors and everything. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would, if it was me, I'd probably, I mean, I don't know what happened coming into the season. If there was like, so there's that element. She has connections to other teams already. I don't need to, give Joseph and whoever TLC, because they've already got all that coming in. We don't have to worry about. So Jag and Jazz are a strong team. Probably we'll give them something so that they're more on our side. But then it didn't seem to manifest in any way that I could tell, other than to just give Jag and Jazz a massive leg up on top of already being at the top of every leg. They've now got like a guaranteed first place, nearly. And they used it at, I think, a totally normal, like the last time they could play the hidden immunity idol.
Yeah.
And it was also at a mostly luck-based challenge for the most part. So they saved themselves a little bit of time there. And they won the leg with, I don't think they win with the express pass. So it's like, all right, I don't know. I think it's probably something in hindsight they probably wouldn't do again if I was Taylor and Kylan. But and then you got Tucker and Eric over there, like, same situation essentially. It's I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, let's look ahead. We already sort of forecasted this bit with the U-turn vote of what they should do. Now, the interesting thing is that, I don't think they knew. They might have thought another U-turn was coming, but maybe they didn't think it would be done in this way. So I don't know how much time premeditated talk is happening. And I mean, what is interesting is that, yes, in theory, you could split your votes between Jag and Jazz and Tucker and Eric, but like, we know that Jag and Jazz have Joseph and Adam on their side. To this earlier gesture, they might have Kylan and Taylor on their side. Do you think it might just be as simple as like throw votes onto those two? Do you think there's another team that might get caught in the crossfire if like Jazz and Jag try to lead the charge against someone else?
I mean, I guess there's one thing is like, do they get time? How much time do they get to pitch a case? Is it just simply straight go into a vote? These are all players that have spent a huge amount of time strategizing with social strategy. Not the same game, but we've all seen them go pretty deep into their seasons, talking their way in and out of bad and good situations. So I'm like, it seems pretty straightforward if I'm just looking at the simple results of this season thus far. I feel like it's pretty obvious. I guess there's a question of like, it's the top two teams in the vote. So you want to make sure if I'm not one of Jagger Jazz or Tucker and Eric, that there's not like a random, somehow somebody flukes it and gives it to like Izzy and Paige or something like that.
Yeah,
And
or
then it's
like, I mean, what is an interesting strategy is like there could be a way that a team like does a burn vote. Now, I don't know if any of these teams would. We see on the next time on, Jack basically telling no one in particular, like, suck it up. This is the race. So I don't think that like him and Chelsea would necessarily be like, oh, we don't want to pick sides here. So we're just going to throw a vote onto Izzy and Paige.
I mean, I could see if I was like Chelsea and Jack, I'd just vote for Tucker and Eric. And then if I was Izzy and Paige, throw it on to Jag. Jag
Yeah.
should probably put one on Tucker. Tucker should put one on Jag. So then you're at 2-2. And then there's just the two other teams with Joseph and Adam. And I'm like, and Taylor and Kylan's. And I'm like, they could easily team up and split it or whatever. I'm like, unless you feel like there's a team that's going to go rogue in the vote and throw a vote some way and work with Jag and Jazz or work with Tucker and Eric. I don't know who's working with Tucker and Eric per se. So maybe if Jag and Jazz, I forget, like, was there an alliance with them in it that they would lean on at all? Or
Yeah,
would they
so
do that?
I mean, Kylan thought there was. So here's how I'm going to forecast the votes, because I think we're also sort of bearing the lead that Phil says there is a tie. So
He does say there's a tie, true.
So what I think is that I think 4 votes are going to go on to Tucker and Eric. I think it's probably like Jag and Jazz, Joseph and Adam,
like Chelsea and Jack or something.
Chelsea and Jack, and then maybe like a Kylan and a Taylor. And then I think Izzy and Paige vote for Jag and Jazz.
Yeah.
And then I think Tucker and Eric throw their vote
for Jag.
I don't think they would. I think they might throw their vote onto somebody else. Like it's interesting though, because we do get all those confessionals of like, we're they're the biggest threats, but like, does that mean that they would take the shot at them? I'm not entirely
sure. I think it could be like a 4-1-1.
I mean, remember, they were the ones that Rapina took a lot of umbrage with the fact that he got to the U-turn board and did not use it on them.
Also worth pointing, like, if Phil is saying there's a tie, if it's between the top two, why would he bother going into a revote, I guess, right, if there is a revote?
So I think it might be a 4-1-1. And then in that scenario, who knows? Because again, Jag and Jazz would have Joseph and Adam on their side. They might have Kylan and Taylor on the side. And then like that's 3. And so unless the other side can mobilize, Jag and Jazz might be able to emerge without getting U-turned, which would be...
Is it possible it's a 3-1-1-1? Or is it...
I mean, that'd be crazy. Because again, as you mentioned, like, it just feels like from our perspective, there is such a clear top 2 teams that it wouldn't make much sense to have multiple people receive notes. But again, if they are completely taken by surprise out of all of this, like, maybe it ends up being a 3-1-1-1, and then we just get a 3-way runoff vote.
That'd be wild. No, I could see the 4-1-1 happening. And the fact that he does bring it, I thought, oh, there's a tie. Wait, but if the top 2 teams are getting U-turned, who cares? Like, they're just the top 2 and they would both get U-turned. So there must be
there's no well, you get a slightly worse U-turn than the other team.
Yeah, right.
I do that this season for some reason.
And I did think, unfortunately, with Tucker and Eric being mostly the front runners for 4 straight legs now, even though Jag and Jazz, I think, have won 3, basically 4.
3, yeah,
they basically won 4.
I mean, the thing with Jag and Jazz was that they won the first 2, technically could have won the third, but as you mentioned, they gave it to Natalie and Steph. And then they have like not been bad. Their lowest placement has been 5th, but they've sort of just been lying underneath the surface for the rest of it. And then that got sort of had the baton passed over to Tucker and Eric, whose lowest placement so far has been 4th. And they just went first, and Jag and Jazz finally took the mantle back.
Yeah, so I could see the votes getting stacked on Tucker and Eric now that I'm thinking about that again. And I'm like, I think, man, if they don't get Jag and Jazz in a revote, I don't know what we're doing here. But then again, there's lots of times on BB 24, 25, 26 where I was like, I don't know what we're doing here. So
yeah, I mean, the other thing too is like, I feel like if we got Chelsea and Jack U-turning Tucker and Eric, why did we get Tucker talking so much about like wanting to get revenge on Angela and less so about like, oh yeah, Chelsea, remember, because Big Brother 26, like Chelsea was one of the
she led the charge.
Yeah, to organize Tucker's blindside once he lost the AI arena.
One of my favorite confessionals of all of BB 26 is Chelsea voting out Tucker, saying, "We finally got him. Let's go." And then the let's go, of course. Yeah. And she's like, "I vote to evict Tucker." And it's like the 4 votes to get Tucker out. And it's just it's the turning point of the entire season. Yeah, maybe that comes up in the vote. I don't know. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, so that's
maybe they throw a vote on. Yeah, maybe they vote. Maybe Tucker and Eric vote for Chelsea and Jack. I don't know. I mean, it seems like a weird vote though if I was them. But then again, that's Tucker. Maybe that's Tucker. I don't know. This is
going back to what we said about like he has been uncharacteristic until this point. Maybe that's when he when he gets a vote, that's when he makes things go wild. And that's the other thing too, is that I think there maybe were some expectations of there being more content around these pre-existing relationships, be they friend or foe. And we haven't really gotten that until the U-turn. Like the U-turn is sort of that way for people to represent that. I guess it's because, again, the Amazing Race is largely an independent property, that it's not like, we have seen teams help each other, but it's not like I'm going to ice this team out because they're my nemesis from my season. It's more so when they get the chance to cast a vote or like influence another team, that's when stuff starts to come out.
Yeah. It's a little more subtle. Yeah, I don't know. I'm now more curious to see what happens with this. Is this gonna be at the top of the episode, I take it?
Yeah, so it's
Or
going to happen. The U-turn vote usually happens before the leg starts, which again is another weird quirk that it's like you have to run through the majority of the leg knowing that you have to do both sides of the detour.
Yeah. Interesting twist on the format. Yeah, I don't know. I also do kind of feel like it's a little disappointing. I do remember that happening with Scott and Laurie, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate because they seemed like pretty strong team up until it went down. I don't know. Well, yeah. I mean, the amazing there's like Amazing Race is such an the game isn't that complex. Like the show is very complex. The things they do is way more complex. Like Big Brother is filmed in a parking lot in Hollywood. Survivor's filmed on Jeff's backyard in Fiji, whereas Amazing Race is filmed around the world. So I'm like, this is a very complicated show with lots of moving parts, not things that they also have full control of, even not let alone just the cities and the people. Um, but the game itself, I've always found to be partially why I'm not as in depth with the show is because it's a little simpler. It's like you go to the thing, you do the thing, you're good at the thing. Maybe you help another team. If they're, in my case, it'd be like help a team that's not as good and carry them. And that's kind of like the strategy. I know we saw Rob and Amber way back in the day start. Boston Rob was just like bringing the strategy to to Amazing Race, and it was really interesting to see. I don't think it stuck a ton. But I'm always like, so when they throw in a twist like the detour or something, like the double vote detour, or they throw in the nomination, it makes the game a little like it's very heavy. It's a very big twist that tends to just like take somebody out. I'm like, whereas on Survivor, they give you an extra vote, and I'm like, that's not going to do much. There's usually nothing so over the top, or even Big Brother. A lot of the times, most of the twists on Big Brother, like you get this power, you did nothing with the power, and there's like 3 powers and none of them did anything. In Amazing Race, it's like this twist is going to kill a team in the game, like they're out, and that's just the game, because the game I feel like isn't super complicated, but the twists are very heavy-handed. They can be very heavy. So unfortunately, anyway, I don't know, I'm just sort of going on a tangent now, but
no, please. I mean, I'll hand it back to you for sort of the final tangent of the podcast. I mean, we went through a lot here, but are there any other random associated thoughts, any other final things you want to say about your thoughts on the Amazing Race 38 so far before we wrap this thing up?
Not too much. I was just saying, like, I came into this podcast unsure if I would even have any thoughts on the show.
Look at you going over an hour.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I could probably do it. I don't know for sure, because I did say to Mike, like, I don't know if I'd listen to me talk about the Amazing Race. I've only made 2 videos and like 500 videos on my channel about it for a reason. And I'm realizing now, I usually only talk about 2 shows because they're the shows I like go crazy for. And then Amazing Race, I'm like, I like it, but it's more like in the background. I don't really take it all in. I don't remember everything that happened. My wife is like, yeah, Mike and Jess are like, they went to Thailand like 5 seasons ago, and then that, and they like know all the stats. And she's just like, I don't know how they do it. And I'm like, to be fair, I could probably tell you like the history of hidden immunity idol usage implementation in Survivor from season to season, and how there are idiosyncrasies from season to season. And I'm like, these are things that not everyone's going to remember, but I will remember this stuff because it's something I'm interested in. But I did manage to come on here and talk for an hour. It helps that I have a big knowledge of the people, I think, the Big Brother players. And I kind of thought, I kind of wanted them to do it for Survivor, maybe, if they could.
Yeah, I again, maybe it's because we're speaking from a very specific position, given the fact that we are very Survivor based in the content that we produce, but I would be all for it. Again, like the blood versus water format, obviously it would be very different because you're working alongside your loved one instead of against them, but introduced, a good amount of very interesting loved ones into the Survivor canon, including amazing racers. And I think especially given the casting of 50, and I think a lot of people realizing like, there are so many people left on the cutting room floor that I want to see back on our screens. This would not be Survivor, but it would be a great way to see them back on CBS. Like get like Sean Rector and his wife, like I think that would be a really fun opportunity. So I hope that they saw this as a success and then want to adapt it moving forward, especially now that Survivor did its big push for a returning player season. Now it's a little bit more open to be able to make the ask out to these people.
For sure. I'm looking at I'm watching Venus and Omer on the Traders, and I'm like, I miss them. I mean, to be fair, I see Omer all the time. I don't miss him too much, but Venus is great. Yeah, I'm like, to be fair, I'm like, Omer is doing way better than I thought he would on the traders, if I'm being honest. Right now through four episodes, but we'll see where it goes. But I like what I'm seeing. I'm like, this is great. This is reminding me of Omer on Survivor 42. And I want more of this. And I was like, oh, it'll be fun to see them on other shows like The Amazing Race. I'm enjoying. I went into this season of The Amazing Race a little hesitant, and episode 1 didn't give me the brightest, most optimistic hope for the season. But then after that, I feel like this season has really found its place. I feel like it's a pretty good season. It could end even on a better note. I don't know. I feel like the overall online sentiment has been pretty good for it. It hasn't become like, oh, Big Brother players so annoying. Look at them being. I'm like, no, these guys are actually pretty normal people. I can attest to that. I watched them on Big Brother.
That's the thing that I think I've also
just regular people.
That's the tone I've gotten from a lot of specifically Amazing Race fans who have not checked out Big Brother, as I think they were nervous about the over the top ways that some of these people were edited. And yeah, some of them are like larger than life personalities, but whether it's the exhaustion, whether it's the need to focus on these tasks, whether it's having a loved one next to them, I do feel like we're seeing more grounded versions of them than we did on the show proper, given how histrionic the edit is.
And I'm enjoying it, and it made me just think, oh, I wouldn't have a problem. Like, I liked it on season 31 of The Amazing Race when they brought in some Big Brother teams, some Survivor teams, and I thought, oh, this is fun. And it's not often, they don't have to do it all the time. Just give us one season where they did all Big Brother, and I thought they got to do this for Survivor. I mean, Survivor's popular. They got a bunch of people they could pull from. I hope it's not like Jeff saying no, but with Survivor 50 coming up, I was like, this is the iron is hot. Like, give us Coach on Amazing Race. Give us whoever you want on The Amazing Race. I don't know. There's so many big people to pull from that I got to think they would do it. And maybe we could just put Suri on there to complete the trifecta. Who knows?
All right. Well, you are talking about plenty of shows from this trifecta of CBS reality TV, of course. The first thing I'll plug, I'll sort of put words in your mouth, Peridiam, as we go to the end here, is that you and I are not done talking this week. In fact, we will be talking very soon with Liana Boris, because you are a guest on the B&B for Survivor this week, and you picked a good time to come on, because listen, I think people feel a certain way about choices that were made by production. For what it's worth, very interesting, and I would say entertaining episode to talk about.
Yeah, I had a good time watching it too. I was like, whoa, there's a lot to chew on here. Normally, I remember 44, 47, they've done this sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, it was mostly just like frustration at the situation. But I'm like, no, there's actually a lot going on with this vote and this dynamic. And it's interesting. I was like, this is a good time to get on a podcast, because the way this went down, it was like watching just like a blindside fall through your finger, like sand falling through your fingers. It was fascinating. And it's definitely one of those moments I could easily see myself talking about in a future YouTube video, about moments that just got away from people, or like the majority just collapsed on themselves for so many different reasons. And it's interesting. So yes, I'm looking forward to talking to both you again and Liana.
So. Well, why don't you plug your channel in general? Of course, if people had not checked you out up to this point, they need to make up for lost time, because you have so much good stuff coming out each and every week about these shows that we adore so much. What would you like to plug?
Well, I'll say, if you're a fan of The Amazing Race, you don't have too much lost time to make up for. It's mostly me talking about Jag.
Well, but if you want to find out about how people like Jag and Chelsea and Taylor won,
that's true.
You mentioned this. I loved that series that you did, that retrospective on each winner's journey in Big Brother history.
Right. If you're interested in getting the context for who these people are, I summarize basically like 30 to 40 episodes into like 15 minutes for them. I've covered all the winners, which there are a bunch still in the game. In fact, all of them are Chelsea, Jag, Taylor. But I talk about all of them, and I do that every single week. I've been doing that every single week since 2017. It's been 8 years now. I'm coming up on almost 500 videos, which is weird. Wow. I've been doing it one video every week. Although I do remember when The Amazing Race 31 was on, I actually put out 3 videos in 1 week, because I was talking about all the different teams, and I picked like one Big Brother team, one Survivor team, one Amazing Race team. And I remember doing that. I was like, whoa, that was a lot. Haven't done that really since then, but still, that was a good year. It was a fun year. But yeah, I put out a new video every single week. In the case of Survivor, which is on right now, I'll be putting them out on Wednesdays. I usually do it as like an appetizer before the main meal of the episode. That was the elevator pitch I told myself way back in 2017. And when Big Brother's on, which won't really be until next summer, but I usually focus on Big Brother in the summer, and I usually do Thursday episodes. And I've been doing that. So, if you're looking on YouTube and you're looking for YouTuber Survivor, Big Brother content, maybe Amazing Race content, I don't know, we'll see. But
Okay.
if you want to find that, just type it in and you'll probably see my name pop up. So
Yeah, and listen, Peridiam I know has always been very open to suggestions as well. I know you have a
yeah,
Patreon too,
absolutely.
and so like if people have amazing race ideas that they want to hear from, if they feel like getting to hear from your very rare amazing race fandom takes, and they want a little bit more, feel free to suggest it. He's only done 500 videos. What's another
Only.
500 more?
Yeah, what's another 500 more? Maybe I got a whole untapped well of the Amazing Race to get through. And part of me has thought about that. Another part of me has thought repeatedly, like, do I go to The Bachelor? There's so much content there. It's crazy. I don't think I will. I don't think I
Yeah,
will.
yeah,
But
good luck with that. If you
yeah,
talk about going into a wretched hive of scum and villainy with Big Brother, like
I
look out
know.
with The Bachelor.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, no, that's what I'm up to. So
Of course, well, you can check out the stuff that we've got going on here on RHAP. If you missed the recap that I did with Rob and Jess, a very fun time breaking down this episode, celebrating the fact that Joseph and Adam have not left our screens yet. But the question is, what will they be doing on our screens next week, along with the other teams? Who will be the recipients of a U-turn that might essentially put them in a two-way race for elimination from the very beginning? Can they overcome it? And how much could that possibly shake up who's winning this whole darn thing in a month? We'll find out on Wednesday and have our recap open on Thursday. And of course, if you all have any suggestions of people from the Big Brother community that you want me to speak with to get their thoughts on this season, it could be former players. It could be like Peridiam, someone who's very important to the Big Brother content creation community. Just let me know at a Mike Bloom type or in the comments of this video. But that's going to do it for this podcast. Peridiam, thank you so much. This was so much fun to pick your brain about all things Amazing Race, a show that is clearly very near and dear to you. I would say so formulative to your love of reality TV in general. And so I was thrilled to really just pick into a part of your past that you're not entirely open about, just given the content you usually produce.
yeah, giving me the opportunity. I've never really actually talked about like this was my mustard seed that got me into reality television. It was originally The Amazing Race, but I've never had to talk about it and bring it up until I guess right now, which is kind of crazy because it's been 8 years. So there you
All
go.
right. Well, we'll see who has the faith of a mustard seed to get through the U-turn vote next week. But until then, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.